Take this across. Hi, Grainne. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me, Danielle.
You're so welcome. I love your accent. It's superb.
You've spent a long time developing this accent.
Yes. Well, you're originally from Ireland, but now living in New Zealand. How did you make your way to New Zealand?
I made my way to New Zealand back in 1998, so a long time ago. And my husband and I, who actually weren't married at the time, we came to New Zealand for a bit of an adventure. We had been living and working in London, and we thought, oh, it'd be good to have a change. And just arrived and never really left. So that's how we ended up here.
Oh, lovely. And where are you based in New Zealand?
I'm based in Wellington, so that's the capital. It's at the bottom of the bottom of the North Island of New Zealand. Yeah,
lovely. Well, let's start with your incredible open water swimming achievements, because there's been many. And the first one was you were the first Irish woman at 17 to cross the English Channel. Tell us how that was, how that all came about, because that was 1987, I believe.
Yeah, so it was a long time ago, and it was before kind of so many people did open water. So I had been a competitive pool swimmer, but also lived by the sea. And we had a fun outdoor pool in the north of Ireland called Picky Pool that the club would go to once a week, I think on a Thursday night. And I mean, look, the north of Ireland is freezing, it's cold, so we were there, these little, skinny swimmers getting all blue, but we were kids and we had a ball and we loved it. And we would do lots of fun swims, and it turned out that I was quite good at them. And then in 1986, there was the first ever open water 25K World Championships. And the Irish selectors decided to send a team. And I was only 16 at the time, quite young. And I think they decided to kind of take a bit of a chance. And there was 4 of us went over. Now, it was quite easy for the selectors to select us in some ways, because at that point in time, there was no sponsorship. We all had to make our own way there. Our mums and dads and husbands and wives and things like that were the support crew. Actually, at the time, we had borrowed tracksuits.
Oh, wow.
And anyway, so I went over to that swim, and it was fascinating because I got adopted really by all these other open water swimmers. Because I was only 16, I was the youngest in the field, and a little bit of novelty value. So I ended up swimming really well. I came 9th, I finished, which actually a lot of other people didn't finish, to be fair. So then a number of the swimmers there, and they were, the greats like Alison Streeter, said to me, look, if you swum this, you can swim the English Channel. And I was like, really? And nobody from Ireland had swum the English Channel since 1972. So, and that had been a very famous man called Ted Keenan, who was a pioneer as well. And he, and then back in 1987 and 86, like there was no internet, there was no Facebook, there was no kind of groups you could join. So I had to do things like write letters and wait for people to come back to me to find out information and make phone calls. And actually gathering information about how to do it was actually quite challenging compared to now, where you can just join a group and all of a sudden ask lots of people.
Yes.
So anyway, we booked to do the English Channel, and headed over to Dover in 1987 in the August. And what was interesting, because I do have a funny name, it's a beautiful old Irish name which I love, but and I was only 17. A number of people, when we went to meet them over there, assumed that my dad was a swimmer. So it's quite, because they didn't know that Grainne was a girl's name. So quite interesting kind of being, them talking to him and directing questions to him. And then it was like, oh, it's actually you. And I ended up actually with a pilot, and what was interesting, he said to me, the weather hadn't been great, and he said to me, look, are you prepared to go on a day that's not perfect? And I remember thinking about it, and I thought, well, we've kind of got all the way over here, and I actually said to him, yes, because actually you're the expert and I'll trust you. And it was interesting because I was the 4th swimmer on the list. And actually, I then went up to first swimmer because actually the other three in front of me had all said no, they wanted to wait for the perfect day.
Right.
And it was interesting because actually my day absolutely was not perfect. The first 3 hours were horrendous, and my
Really?
dad and my brother had to be tied to the boat for their own safety. They were bringing up their breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the pilot had said to me he thought it would get better, and he turned out that he was right, but it was a very, very rough start. But what that really taught me is like there is no such thing as a perfect day. And sometimes you do need to take your opportunities. So that was way back in 1987, and it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously whet your appetite for future swims. I mean, what kind of impact does that have on your career when you do a swim like that at such a young age? How does it set you up for these future swims that you've just done?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think one of the things that it set me up quite well for my work career, particularly in the early days of going for job interviews, because everybody wanted to ask you about swimming in the English Channel. And when you are the person who's done it, you're the expert that's been interviewed by people, you can't really go wrong. So I do think it helped a number of times for people to even read my CV,
Right.
so and just to have a bit of interest. But the other thing is, I think open water swimmers, they show dedication, they show discipline, they show tenacity, they show the ability to work with things that are uncomfortable and change, and they can plan. So I think it really helped actually, it helped form opportunities for me outside of swimming, and I've gone on to have a very interesting and varied career. I think then with the actual swimming, look, back in 1987 there wasn't very many people who did a lot of this. So I mean, in the last few years, the explosion in open water swimming has just been amazing. And I was talking to my brother, who's also swum the English Channel. So he swam it in 1994, a few years after me. And, we were in Ireland, in Donaghadee, where they start the North Channel, and there was like 6 people getting in that day. In my entire lifetime, before that point, there wasn't 6 people getting in at any point. There wasn't 6 people. Actually, whenever I was swimming, there wasn't actually 6 people who had done the North Channel in total. So then to find there's 6 people on one day trying it, like my brother was like, how did that happen?
It's crazy, isn't it? I think COVID obviously had a huge impact on that, because pools were closed worldwide, and all the swimmers out there had to find somewhere to swim. And when you discover that open water and you haven't done it before, and that great rush of endorphins that you get after you've swum in it, it's a bit addictive.
Yes, absolutely. And I think as well, what happened is, a number of pool swimmers who I think it's quite interesting. There's a couple of quite famous pool swimmers in the UK all decided they would try open water and actually weren't able to make it. And then I think the respect grew. I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't just that's what people who can't swim do, because I think there had been a period of that potentially. But then a number of quite famous, Olympians tried things like the English Channel and didn't make it, and realized, actually, this is kind of quite cool, and it is tough, and it is actually a true sport. I think also what's happened is and I think it's a positive and a negative, is the the admission of open water swimming into the Olympics. So that 1986 first ever FINA World Championships was a bit of a breakthrough, and then over time it moved into the Olympics. I mean, I think the Olympics is good, but also what open water swimming is really special for, I think, is the community, and the fact that actually everybody's a winner. It doesn't matter if you swim a kilometer, it doesn't matter if you swim 25 kilometers. The fact that people are getting in there and trying things and doing better than they could have done before. Doesn't matter whether they're doing an ocean or, as I say, the kind of local swim in the Wellington Harbour. And I just really hope, and I don't think it has lost it. I was a bit nervous when it went into the Olympics that we would lose that, celebration of everybody who takes part, celebration of everybody who makes up the community. And I know here in Wellington we haven't lost that. I mean, we have an absolutely amazing open water swimming community in Wellington. Very special place to be.
Is this where the Spud Buds and the washing machines, the squads that you swim with, is that where they originate? Tell us a little bit about those, because I know Corinne from the Spud Buds reached out to me and said, you must get Grainne on the podcast.
So I think so I think what we have is, it's quite interesting. We've got a group called the Washing Machines that actually are a real broad range of kind of people who get in and dunk kind of thing and maybe go, a few 100 yards. And then to, people like myself and other, like ocean swimmers and English Channel swimmers and Cook Strait swimmers. And then within the washing machines, there's probably a subgroup called the Spud Buds, which are actually the kind of real hardcore in terms of the Cook Strait swimmers, the Triple Crowners, the English Channel swimmers. And but what I love is it's just an incredibly inclusive and varied and diverse community. And actually, originally we were almost two groups, but now, as I say, we've kind of merged. I would say the Spud groups, Spud Buds is the kind of almost in the Venn diagram. We used to overlap. Now we're kind of in the middle.
How did the name Spud Buds come about?
Well, it's interesting, and it was actually before I was a kind of member, which is three of them, Karina and Bree and Rebecca. Now Karina has done Fovo and Cook Strait. Rebecca has done Double Lake Topo. Bree has done Cook Strait. So they were training a few years ago and doing a hard session and trying to challenge each other to come up with a motivational saying at the end of each set. And anyway, at one point somebody, I think Bree said, dig deep. You need to dig deep, and somebody else said, and you'll find a potato. And then all of a sudden the Spud Buds kind of evolved. So so nothing very spectacular, but it's kind of stuck, and it's been good fun.
That's good, isn't it? So how often each week are you swimming in the open water, and how often do you swim in the pool? What does a weekly schedule look like for you in the water?
When I'm in really heavy training, I think, that it's a 6 days a week routine. We're very fortunate in Wellington to have Philip Rush as our coach. So Philip is the record holder for the 3-way English Channel. He actually did that in 1987, the same year I swam the the English Channel. So Philip is an incredibly experienced open water swimmer and open water coach. And what he advises, and I think his advice is wonderful. He advises, you really need to do quite a lot of pool swimming to keep up your speed, to work on your technique, to get your distance in.
Yes.
So we do quite a lot of pool, and then also some sea. And very often what we'll do is one of our swimming pools is actually right beside the sea. So we'll do a pool session, and then we'll, go into the sea after that. We have a good plan. Actually, what we do is there's a small group of us within the Spud Buds when we're training. We have a shared spreadsheet, and we'll put down, what kilometers we're aiming for that week. And then also we have a number of formal sessions, and then we call it secret training when we train outside of sessions, but it's not very secret because everybody's invited. So, but again, that community of seeing what everybody's trying to achieve that week, and you can see, look, Mike wants to get another few Ks in, or Karina does, and so when are you going to do that? Can I join you? So quite a lot of pool, but a lot of sea, and particularly closer to the big open water swim events. Particularly, for example, when I was training for the North Channel, what I did have was, it was winter in Wellington. So, it was pretty cold, and that was really helpful. So I could do long sea swims to ensure that I was acclimatized to the cold. I was hoping that actually I would get to Northern Ireland and things would be warmer. So it was 12.4 degrees in the water in Wellington in the winter, and I went to the North Channel and my average temperature was 12.8. So so it was a good job I had Wellington to train in.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I wanted to talk about the recent Triple Crown that you just completed, but tell us a little bit about the Irish Triple Crown, because that's something that not as many people know about.
No, it's true. So the Irish Triple Crown is the North Channel, which most people know about because it's one of the Ocean 7. an absolutely fabulous swim called Fastnet, the
Yeah.
Fastnet Lighthouse into Baltimore, which, look, I can't recommend highly enough. It's just great team down there, but it's just such a beautiful swim. It's very full of history. The Fastnet Lighthouse is built on a rock that was called Ireland's Teardrop, and it's where all the immigrants that went to America, that was the last part of Ireland that they saw.
Oh,
So
okay.
they would be crying because they were,
Oh,
leaving their homeland.
yeah.
It's kind of out in the middle of the Atlantic. And you get to swim from this amazingly iconic lighthouse and rock into the coast. The first couple of hours you don't see much, but then you're swimming along a beautiful coastline with lots to see. So there's the Fastnet swim, it's 21 kilometers, and then there's Galway Bay, swim across Galway Bay, that's about 13 kilometers.
Okay.
And I was very fortunate. I had swum Galway Bay a couple of times actually, but we can't find the records of one of my swims.
Oh,
Because it was back in in the 80s. But we
yes.
did find the records of the 1986 swim, so that was good. So I
That's
did it
good.
in 1986, and then I actually ended up doing the North Channel on the 22nd of July, and then Fastnet on the 4th of August, 2023. So, kind of quite a number of years later. I think, yeah. So it's quite funny if you look at it. Yeah, Galway Bay, 1986, the next one, 2023, and then only 2 weeks between the next two of the Irish Triple Crown.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, look, it's a great set of swims. I mean, the North Channel is incredibly challenging swim.
Yeah.
And then so no, I've the Irish Long Distance Swimming Association also have developed this beautiful crown, actually, which
Oh,
sadly you don't get to keep, which I know somebody said to me at work, oh, I wanted to see you wearing your crown at work. And they actually keep it under lock and key, and then they take it out for like the presentations. But they've gone to a lot of effort to design something that is just spectacular, and it's worth
beautiful.
getting the photograph with. And yeah, wearing briefly. But yeah.
That sounds lovely. Well, you've had a super busy 2023 because not only have you done that, but you've been over to America and done Catalina and Manhattan. Tell us a little bit about the Catalina swim because that was your first one.
Yeah, so Catalina I did back in July, and yeah, look, it's a night swim. And I'd say out of the Ocean Seven, it's relatively you kind of know what you're getting into. There's quite a lot of people that have done it. There's plenty of people to ask about it. Yeah, started off at about 10:30 at night, finished just under kind of about 11 hours 20 or something. I did. Swam through the night. It was a bit sloppy. And there wasn't much. There was no moon or stars, so it was yeah, I mean, lots of other people. I was just talking actually to Callum Eade, who did it, and he's a Kiwi based in Singapore, and he got dolphins and whales and amazing
Wow.
wildlife. And I have to say, I got nothing.
Nothing.
And I
Oh,
think that's what happens. Each of these swims, you don't know what you're
mm,
going to get. Some of them they're all magical in their own right, but some of them are more magical than others. So, I mean, I think for Callum, the Catalina was, really magical. For me, it was actually more like an ordinary day in the office.
right.
There wasn't quite as much, glamour.
Mm.
Yeah, but look, I enjoyed it. There was a great crew there. I mean, the Catalina Federation are great. The pilot was great. The other thing is they've got kayakers that go alongside you, and both of my kayakers, one was Barbara, the other one was Patricio. Amazing,
Right.
amazing. And that's the great thing about any of these swims. It's more about the adventure and the people you meet, and you know what I mean. So but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, Catalina was yeah, we got there, and it was, but as I say, I probably didn't have as many magical moments as some of the other swimmers get.
Do most people do Catalina at night? Because a few
Yeah,
people I've spoken
Catalina
to.
is always pretty much done at night.
Right.
So
Why is
what
that?
but partly because Catalina Island into the coast, the wind drops at night. So it's very unusual, Catalina, because you don't swim it on particular tides. You just get a date. It's one of the only swims that you actually get a date for, and you go on that date pretty much 80% of 80 to 90% of the time. So that's quite unusual because usually, you go somewhere, you're sitting around potentially weeks, you may not even get in. Whereas Catalina, you go and you say, oh, I'm going to be swimming on the 6th/7th of July. And lo and behold, you do. So it was quite nice because I actually did that during the New Zealand school holidays and my whole family came over and, we could actually plan that one, whereas you can't do that with like the North Channel. I ended up in Ireland for a month.
Right.
I booked to stay a month, but actually I ended up arriving on a Monday and swimming on the Friday, the very first possible day I could have swum. But I could have been there for a whole month and not got in. So Catalina is very unique in that you can actually plan it far more than any other swim.
Right. Wow. And you only had 8 days between Catalina and Manhattan. How did you recover? Like, what strategies did you use to recover before the Manhattan swim?
Well, I think I was feeling quite confident because I had done the year before the North Channel and Fastnet within 2 weeks of each other. And the North Channel definitely, I would say, is the harder swim than the Catalina. And again, this is where Philip was very good. So Philip said to me, look, Grainne, based on what you've done, I'm confident. And I really felt that my body had recovered quite well between the North Channel and Fastnet. And I think it's all down to your training. You've got to do the right training, but not absolutely exhaust yourself. It's about listening to your body. And look, between Catalina and Manhattan, I had a good massage. I had a couple of chiropractor appointments. I find chiropractor really works for me. And also I just made sure that I took things very easy. Yep. I was, relatively healthy with my diet. And at the end of the day, it's too late to do any more work. 8 days out from swim, and actually you'd done enough work in Catalina. So now within Manhattan, when I did Manhattan, I could feel that I had done a big swim 8 days before. There was no doubt about it. But look, I had a ball. I loved it. It was a fabulous swim. I mean, again, really well organized. The New York Open Water do a fabulous job. I swam at night, amazing. All the twinkly lights, swimming past all of the the iconic buildings, but also, real big contrast to Catalina, where I saw nothing, to be frank, yes. Not even a star or a moon. And then, kind of sensory overload almost on Manhattan and being able to see progress. Do you know what I mean? You can see, oh, I was behind that building, now I'm ahead of it. Magical swim. And again, I can't recommend that one highly enough either.
Yes. Does that go down it starts down near Staten Island Ferry, is that right?
So they start in 2 places, and I think it depends on the tides, and this is where the New York Open Water people are just complete experts. So I started at Battery Park, Pier A, so that's down at the bottom. But some people do start kind of in the middle, up the kind of junction between the East River and the Harlem, sometimes depends, and then finish there depending on the tides. And also they calculate, you tell them what speed you kind of average, and then they calculate what's the best option for you.
Yeah. And at night time, when you did that swim, did you encounter many, other than your support boat and kayaker? Was there any other sort of boats on the rivers there that you had to navigate around?
Yeah, well, it was quite funny at the start because actually we had to stop for the Staten Island Ferry.
Oh, really?
And all these people from the Staten Island Ferry were waving at us and we were waving back. And then there was another kind of big kind of water taxi thing that we had to stop for. But actually in the nighttime itself, that was kind of more the kind of 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock time, early evening. In the nighttime itself, no, not really. There was quite a lot of, we had a lead boat and there was a follow-on boat. And then quite a lot of the swim, actually, the New York Police Department had a boat and kept their boat quite close to me for quite a long time, which was in some ways quite nice, but they had those blue flashing lights, which was a little bit was actually from time to time slightly annoying, so I had to kind of breathe the other direction so that I wasn't kind of getting the glare of their light. But yeah, it was I mean, again, that just really added to the swim. So much was happening, so much to see, both on the water and then obviously outside the water.
Yeah. And the feeding that you do during those swims and the hydration, are they different for, say, Catalina to Manhattan, or did you keep the same type of schedule? Give us a bit of an idea of what you do with that side of things.
So my schedule is pretty much the same. However, what I find is with the warmer water, and obviously Manhattan was warmer, and then the other swim I did in 2023 back in May was the Molokai, Molokai to Oahu in Hawaii, and that's warm as well.
Right.
So the key difference there is, I do the drinks cold versus do the drinks warm.
Right.
The other thing is on the colder swims, I've been using leek and potato soup since 1985, and I continue to use homemade leek and potato soup. And I also use a New Zealand product called Pure, which is a sports drink, which I find excellent.
Yes.
But what I find on the colder swims, I do some soup. I also do the Pure, but I do the Pure warm. On the warmer swims, I tend not to do any of the soup, and I just do the Pure, and I do it cold.
Right.
I do what's relatively standard for a lot of open water swimmers. First hour, nothing, and then feed at an hour, and then quick feeds every half an hour.
Yeah.
I probably, as I've gone through my career, ended up I do much more liquid than in the olden days. I probably would have done a few more solids. But I just find, I'm really, really happy with my feeding schedule. It really works for me. I'm really, you just hone it. And I don't really think I could make any improvements to it anymore. So I'm really comfortable with it.
That's really good. That's good to hear. Do you get seasick when you're out there, or you don't suffer from that?
I don't tend to. I haven't. Now, what I did do, because in Hawaii, the sea is very rolling, and even when it's a good night, it's still big rolling seas because you don't have much land around. So I did use they're called scopoderm patches, and you put a little patch behind your ear. And a number of people had tried that. I think they're relatively new to the market in some ways. You can get them just over the counter. And you put them on like for about 24 hours or like half a day beforehand. They do tend to come off, but I tried that before I swam. Again, this is the key thing about open water swimming: never do anything new in a big swim, because some people find that with those patches they get quite dehydrated, and I found that they worked fine with me. Probably, I think I have tried some of the seasickness medication, but again, I haven't tended to suffer. But I just thought on a couple of the swims where we know that the sea is very rough, better to be prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you just mentioned Hawaii, and I know that in talking to Andy Donaldson a few weeks ago, he said that was one of his tough swims. And I just was interested in your perspective as to why that was such a tough swim, and what did you sort of find with it? What were the challenges?
Yeah, so actually I was the next person to swim it after Andy. So that was quite funny. And it was great actually because, I had a nice video conference with Andy and Jay, his support person. So look, it's a long swim. It's a night swim. Even when it's calm, it's not calm because you have rolling seas. What you have under the islands is quite an uneven seabed. So you get, it's very, very deep at parts, and it's quite shallow. So you get conflicting currents, unpredictable currents. Then you have, there's quite a lot of wildlife. So you've got your sharks. Now you do swim with a shark shield. Then the other piece that now Andy I had a better night than Andy in terms of weather conditions. But I got incredibly badly stung by a couple of fairly significant jellyfish, which the jellyfish expert in Hawaii thought were potentially box jellyfish.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Yeah, so I had 2 hours, 4 hours, and 6 hours. I had got stung, and it was not pleasant, but it was, I could work my way through it. But then as the sun rose, I got a sting on my foot and a sting on my arm, and they were just absolutely next level. I nearly walked on water. So I think with the Hawaii swim, there's a number of challenges, and actually different people get different challenges. As probably if I hadn't have got those really bad jellyfish, I would have said, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I did get a really bad current near the end, so I had a beautiful straight line, and I was making quite good progress. Probably, was on track for about a 14-hour finish. Ended up being just over 15 hours because the last part was really wiggly, and the team said to me, "Get your head down. You need to. I know it's really hard for you, and I've been really badly stung, and I know it's really hard for you to but you just need to get your head down and plow through this." I think also, I think Andy was the 95th person to swim it. I was the 96th. And again, I think, so there is some data, but you think about, there's hundreds of people who swum Catalina. There's, hundreds of people that swum the English Channel. There's no doubt that if I think back to when I first tried the North Channel in 1996, I would have been the 6th person to swim it. Right. We just didn't know anything about it. We didn't know anything about the tides. And it's interesting because the pilot who took me said to me, who actually then took me back in 2023 as well, when I successfully completed it, he said, "Look, Grainne, a lot of people we got across that North Channel because of what we learned with you." Right. Do you know what I mean? So I think with Hawaii, there's still that learning. 96 people is still quite a lot of data, but it's not, there could be more. So I think there's no doubt it's very challenging on a range of fronts.
Yes. How did you psychologically work through that pain? Because I would have stopped. How did you what did you say to yourself?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One was I'm never coming back here, so I might as well keep going.
Yes, I see that.
I'm not putting myself through this again, so let's see if I can push through. What I did have to do with those 2 stings in particular, because they were very different, and I have been stung by many, many jellyfish. My nickname in Wellington is like the jellyfish magnet. They were. I actually had to kind of monitor myself, because I thought I could feel a level of swelling. I could actually feel the poison kind of coursing around my body in a way that I've never felt with another jellyfish sting. Wow. So I thought, right. So the first thing was kind of monitor. Dig deep. Can you keep going? So I think, the fact was that I'm never coming back to try this again. And then the other piece was, it's all about trying to see it as relative pain. The pain will pass at some point. It will pass. And I was raising money for a children's charity that supports young people who have suffered significant loss and grief. And I kind of thought, actually, look, this pain will pass, but for the people I'm raising money for, their pain will potentially go for a very long time. So try to get it in perspective. Just kind of keep your head down and just keep thinking about, well, can I go for another 5 minutes? Can I go for another 5? Can I last to the next feed? Can I last to the next feed? Don't make any decisions yet, just keep swimming. Can I go to the next feed? The recovery was terrible, I have to say. I had 2 days where I didn't sleep a wink because the pain was awful. I probably didn't sleep well for about a week actually after that swim. But look, at the end of the day, the pain has gone, and you have the swim and the memory of the swim, and that's exciting.
Yep, the achievements in the book. That's right.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
If my maths is correct, you've done 6 of the 7 Ocean Sevens. Is that correct?
No, actually, I've only done 5. So I haven't done Gibraltar, because Gibraltar's quite hard to get a slot for. And then I haven't done Japan, which Japan has had quite a lot of controversy in recent times.
Yes.
And look, I never set out to do the Ocean 7, really. When I swam the English Channel in 1987, there was no such thing as the Ocean 7. Yeah. What I love is just, I quite like the Triple Crown thing. I've really enjoyed that, because I've now got 3 of those. I've got the Irish, the New Zealand, and then the Catalina, Manhattan, and English Channel. So, but look, there's so many swims now. And I do think if I ever do end up doing the Ocean 7, I'll probably be the person that it took the longest.
Which is fine.
Andy was the shortest. I can be the longest, maybe.
Maybe. Have you put your name down for Gibraltar?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would
Yeah.
really like to do that swim. Yeah. And everybody who does it says it's a lovely swim, but it's quite friend of mine was over there recently and hasn't got away, because it can be quite windy there.
Right.
So and look, it's very popular because it's quite short compared to the rest of the Ocean Seven, and look, pretty exciting swimming from Spain to Africa. Do you know what I mean? That
Yes.
sounds pretty cool. So,
Yeah. How many K is that swim?
I think somewhere between 13 and 16.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So probably manageable for a lot more people.
Yes. Yeah. And also what they do there is they have quite a lot of people swim it in wetsuits, so that they've got people doing wetsuit swims and then people doing kind of ocean swim
swims as
kind
well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they're going to do about that swim in Japan, because it sounds like the ocean nav guys are not going to take any people outside of Japan. So it was just Andy's pilot who had the only successful crossing this year. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but they need to do something, because if it's part of the Ocean Seven, it's got to be able to be completed by people. Otherwise, they're going to have to find another swim.
Yeah, so there has been quite a lot of discussion on by a number of the kind of open water swimming groups, and some people are talking about, well, maybe make it the Ocean's 10 and have the 6 and then you choose another 4, or and look, I think again we'll see how things pan out in Japan, because the thing that you learn is nothing ever stays the same, and they've had a really bad season, there's no doubt about it, and there does seem to have been something going on with tides and currents, and
yes.
Also the Coast Guard there has got some new rules, so there's not as much night swimming, but things could change, and again maybe there will be another swim, and just wait and see. And I think for me it's about enjoying all of the swims, and all of them are special, because you get to meet fabulous people and have adventures with your family and have adventures with your friends, and even in Hawaii I had the moon was out, the stars were out, it was just you kind of sit there and think, gosh, how did I end up here? Isn't this amazing? So I don't mind what happens with the Japan swim. I mean, I think the other piece is we have to make sure that all these swims are safe.
Yes.
And I do think something must have happened with the tides and the currents, because the times that people are doing are not nearly as fast as they were in the past. And the important thing is to keep the sport safe.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that your family came along to the American trip. Are they big supporters of your open water swimming?
Oh, huge, absolutely huge. And I think the kids think, oh, my mother's mad and whatever, but no, I mean, they've been crew, and they've been wonderful. They've been wonderful. So my husband, he was on my Cook Strait swim and my English Channel swim, and then Catalina, and then a couple of my kids all of the kids were on the Catalina, and then one of my kids has been on FOVO, North Channel, Fastnet, Hawaii, Catalina, and Manhattan. So pretty exciting.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? That's fantastic. Just back to the training you do. Do you add in any strength work, or is it all swimming in the pool and in the ocean?
Yeah. So what I find with myself, look, I'm a busy lady with kids and a job and stuff. So look, I would love to be able to be doing everything, but I can't. So I think the key things for me are the pool and then flexibility. So and also because I'm not the youngest, I'm 53 now, coming 54. I find that if I don't do the flexibility, that's the thing that's more important for me. If I then had time, I would then do strength work. But what I find is each season, that's kind of like, first of all, when I got back into big open water swimming in 2021, after having my last big ocean swim was the Cook Strait in 2001. I found the first thing I had to get right was my training, and then tweak that. Then it was getting the stretching right. Then it was kind of getting the diet right. So I think I've got those 3 things right. I think, then I could look at what I can add, but I also just need to be realistic about, I'm working full time. I'm, I've got a family. So, you can't do everything.
You can't do everything.
Yeah. And it's what you know that your body needs. And as I say, I'd love to be doing some more strength work, but I can't sacrifice. I'm really quite stiff. So if I've got any extra time, I need to be doing the stretching.
Yep. Yeah, and as we age, we get stiffer. So it really is important, isn't it? I feel like I was always very flexible as an age group swimmer, but as you get older, I feel I'm stiffening up everywhere. So yeah, it's a battle. I understand.
Well, I was never flexible as an age group swimmer. I was always the least flexible. So I've had an uphill battle on it for a long time.
Oh dear. Look, I'd like to finish every interview with some deep dive questions about your swimming, just to give us a little bit of a snapshot, and people love to hear a little bit about this. So what's your favourite open water swimming location that you've ever swum in? Or it can be anywhere around the world.
So look, I do think that the two for me are probably the Fastnet swim and also Manhattan. So I think Fastnet because I'm Irish, because of the history of it, being out in the Atlantic, it was just amazing. And then Manhattan because that was just a really special swim with, special people, and, in a really special place. So yeah.
Sounds nice. And what is your pre-meal snack that you have, or not snack, but your pre-meal dish that you have the night before a big swim?
Yeah. To be honest, that has varied. So it tends to either be some kind of like maybe chicken and vegetables and some potatoes, or kind of a pasta dish. But I have been finding the kind of, in the old days, I would have gone more kind of the macaroni, cheesy, bacony, beansy type. But I do kind of find the chicken, the salad, and the potatoes is probably agreeing with me more as I get older.
Yes, understand. What's your favourite song to psych yourself up for one of these big swims?
Well, actually, the song I sing a lot in the water is actually American Pie by John McLean.
Oh, okay.
And I've been singing it for years. And I think what happens is I try to remember the verses in the right order and the words, and then I find I forget, and then I come back to the start again. So that's one of my go-to songs in the water. Yeah.
That's a good one. It's long too, so we'll keep you going for a while.
Yeah, particularly when you forget and you have to go back to the start.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And what's your favourite freestyle training set that you do in the pool?
I like a good Hungarian rep. So, the kind of, you do 5 100s, or you do maybe 10 100s, 5 200s, then 2 or 3 250s, and then a 500, and then you come back down the kind of triangle. So it's that pyramid. We call them Hungarian reps, but some people might call them a pyramid. But yeah, I like a good pyramid. So yeah.
Right. And what's your rest interval on those? How much rest are you getting in between each repeat?
Yeah, I mean, on the hundreds, probably not a lot. It's about a steady, relatively fast pace, but keeping it up. So 10 to, well, probably about 15 seconds on 100, and then a bit more, maybe 20, 25 on the 200s, and yeah.
Yeah, and the pace sort of what, 85% or
yeah,
a little,
80, 85%. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that's a good set to keep you going.
Yeah.
Last question, might be a little bit controversial, so I'm happy if you pass on it. Diana Nyad has just had a film come out on Netflix, and it's a little bit controversial. What are your thoughts on her Cuban crossing and the film coming out?
Well, look, it's really interesting because I didn't know much about it at all until recently, and then it's obviously kind of hit the media and the discussions, and obviously lots of people have kind of done investigations on it. I think what's probably for me, it's not about that swim per se, but I think some of the other things that I have read in terms of, I think potentially what worries me is the open water swimming community has usually supported each other. And there are some examples of where potentially Diana didn't support other swimmers or claimed to be the first around Manhattan when they weren't, and that sort of stuff. And probably that's what worries me more, because I just think open water swimming is really special community, and we want to keep it that way, where everybody's a winner. Actually, everybody's a winner. everybody's a winner in different ways, and we just need to continue to nurture that, because I think it's a relatively unique sport for that. And I would hate to see that being lost. So hopefully, and I do think, the film may well bring more people to open water swimming, which would be a good thing.
That'd be good.
Yeah, but let's hope it brings people that want to continue that support to each other and lifting everybody up rather than bringing anybody down.
Yeah. Look, I think, reading a lot of those open water groups that I'm in as well, I think the overriding thing is that people want to keep it, true and honest and supportive. And I think you've nailed that on the head there with that answer. But
yeah,
it is a supportive community, and you're obviously a very passionate member of that community. So that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. It's been lovely hearing about all your open water swims, and best wishes for hopefully getting to Gibraltar soon and any other swims that you've got coming up.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. I need to think about what happens next year. I've been quite enjoying having a wee rest.
I bet you have. It's been such a busy year.
yeah, and you do need that rest. I think that's a really important part of training. Rest is you need it. So so it'll be good. Well, look, thanks very much for having me, and I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Danielle.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.